Peace YouTube, this is Blue coming to you today on our Secret Squirrel channel. I'm here, and as you notice, I am wearing the genre that is being discussed right now. So I'll wait until a few of you check in, because I know you're not used to me being on this stage, and then we'll kick it off. I'm going to actually plug in my phone. Secret Squirrel, Secret Squirrel. You know what's so interesting? I've been finding out such wonderful things. Did you know that when people illegally accuse you of something, that they can be sued and they can have prison time? Did you know that? I'm sorry. Yeah, peace, Shannon. Yeah, I just found out that when someone falsely accuses you of and actually detriments your what is it, like your what is it called? Like your reputation publicly, they can be arrested and they can be sued. Go figure that. So big up to my attorney. My YouTube should be back in order soon, but this is a Secret Squirrel page, so I'm grateful to come to you and finish our our video, the video that I never did last week. So east to the west, the east, the west, the south, and the north. Okay, so we're discussing StarBucks. You know, that's my conversation. You see, I have my outfit on like the baristas are wearing. And if you see my thumbnail picture, you notice that there is a brown woman sitting there in the StarBucks that I know in an undisclosed location. And she's actually a homeless woman who actually sits in a StarBucks that I go to every day, uninterrupted, sits there beautifully. They give her a paper and she sits there and she goes to the bathroom and she utilizes the bathroom and then she goes about her business. So big up to those who are actually at my StarBucks, upholding the light. Anyway, so let me get in the conversation. Happy Earth Day. I know, isn't it a beautiful day today? It is Earth Day. Thank you. Thank you. Happy Earth Day to you. I hope you're enjoying everything earthy and beautiful. I hope you are actually being a good steward to Mother Earth. Hey, Selma. Peace, Aya. Hope you're being a good steward to Mother Tiamat. I hope you're engaging in activities today that are reminding you of the healthy homeostasis of nature before these dastardly beings came on our planet, causing a whole bunch of ish. Yes, and I am drinking Starbucks. I'm sorry. It's part of the props for this conversation, okay? Anyway, so let's get into the conversation. Hey, Nada. How you doing, Mama? It got cloudy and rainy here. Where are you, alien? What state are you in? Aren't you in, are you in that, Chicago? I don't know. I think you were in, like, Chicago, or were you in Illinois? Well, that is Illinois, right? Anyway, let's get into the conversation. Memphis? Oh, Memphis? Huh. Are you alerted of that shooting of the man dressed in green who shot people? Well, he was naked underneath a coat, a green jacket. And he went in and shot up at Waffle House at 3 o'clock in the morning in Tennessee. Are you aware of that, Alien Blaze? Did you hear that? He shot 4 people. I listen. I know I'm sidebarring. I'll wait until some people check in because they're not used to me being on this channel. But did you realize that Alex Jones has gone rogue? Anybody notice that Alex Jones has gone rogue? He's trying to come back after he told Trump to F you. He basically made a whole live stream. He went Buttafuoco, and he just told him to F off. He said F Trump. That's what he said. But he actually had some decent intel saying that because of what's going on in Syria, that there would be a lot of land terrorism that would be the sidebar of what's actually occurring to kind of stimulate some sort of inceptiousness in inner walls of the United States, so that it can kind of create more like coups, like the United States does in other people's countries when it goes into other people's countries and it starts coups. So it makes it easier to incept and bomb them when they're all fighting each other. They don't even know what's going on. Okay, so yeah, Aya, is it A or Aya? Yo, he went wild. When he went rogue, listen, this is me when I was watching Alex Jones. This is someone who's pro-Trump. You know, this is somebody who was advocating for Trump in every single way. Trump kicked off a world war, and Alex Jones went rogue. I had to give him a big up to that, because at least it showed that he had some decency in some way. Anyway, I'm going sidebar. So anyway, let's talk about Starbucks. As you know, happy Earth Day. Thank you for those who are already coming in the room. And I just wanted to state that, I'm wearing the genre of Starbucks. Also, I took a picture earlier of a Starbucks, a woman of color who sits in Starbucks almost every day, who is homeless. I know her because since I've moved here, she's always been here. She's been allotted to sit inside of Starbucks. She cleans up, people give her papers, she sits there as long as she wants, and then she leaves and goes about her business. That has been a regular routine since I've been in Orlando, Florida, since 2011. So this is a woman, and she's one of a few, but she's one that I know that they created a home for her inside of, hey Indigo, hey Golden Girl. So anyway, so let's get it in. Is Starbucks, or is what we're hearing in Starbucks Compextionism? Or are we seeing or observing brown male Karmicism? So you're saying, what do you mean? I always have these terms that I create in my mind that really link to things that are metaphysically and also, intellectually, that link to what I'm trying to convey. So, first of all, as many of you know, I have a unnatural, listen to what I said, an unnatural obsession with Starbucks, okay? I said unnatural because it's something that I've done for a while. I did not do it in my youth. It's something I did after children, probably as a like a coping mechanism for the lack of sleep and the need to still engage and do things and have things here. Big up to DC. What up, Brandy? So I've engaged in Starbucks, and at the time it was my sister-in-law who actually got me really involved with the whole Starbucks. I used to always go in my youth. Hi, how are you? I used to always go in my youth to Starbucks, because again, I grew up in New York City, so a lot of my homegirls used to go to Starbucks and get things, especially when they were working in corporate America. And I always meet them, and I love the smell. And I grew up with French people in a household where you always had a percolator, so the smell of coffee was very, very nostalgic for me. So, needless to say, years later, I got introduced to actually drinking Starbucks, and I loved it. And I've been part of that network ever since. I've been to every Starbucks from east, west, coast. I've been to Starbucks in different countries, at least 8 or 9 different countries. I've been to Starbucks in almost every airport that you've flown out of. I can literally say that I've had, hi, how are you?
Hi.
Good. Having a beautiful day?
Yeah. Good.
Good. Oh, that was very nice, an elderly man. He's enjoying himself in the weather. I love it. He's smelling as he should. So anyway, I've enjoyed the amenities of Starbucks for many, many years now, in many different cultures, many different neighborhoods. I've been to Starbucks that are kind of, on 161st in New York City. I've been to Starbucks over by Target in Washington Heights in New York. I've been to Starbucks in Brooklyn. I've been to Starbucks in Detroit. You should be patronized for Starbucks. I should get perks from them. Listen, I've been to the Starbucks in where else? I've been to Starbucks in darn near the hood, and I've been to Starbucks in Harlem. I'm just saying, I've been to many, many different Starbucks. So I think I have a good insight and I think I can speak on this topic with really a very balanced perspective. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's big up that, because obviously, sorry, that was a phone call. I'm sorry. I get interrupted sometimes on this. It is Sunday. I'm sorry. No, it should come back. Hopefully it comes back, right? Can you guys see me? Just to make sure. Just tell me if you can see me and hear me. If you can, hopefully you can. Can you see and hear me? Because sometimes when the phone rings, it throws it off a little bit. No? Okay, so I'm back. Okay, hey, Peace XOX. Okay, we are back. Okay, so, hey, Jennifer. Hey, pretty girl. Hey, Pamela. Hey, Indigo. Pink. So anyway, when we speak in terms of Starbucks and the two gentlemen, now actually I love that I'm having this conversation now because I was allotted to see the interview that the two gentlemen had. I think it was on CBS. I think so. Don't quote me on that. I think it was CBS that I saw an interview of the two gentlemen that were actually taken and arrested in the Starbucks in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Oddly enough, that's the name of, that's one of the one of the side names of course, um, Philadelphia. So I saw the interview with these gentlemen. Really, really decent guys. They seemed a little cold. I guess they're not allotted with this kind of attention. You know, I saw them talking. I heard the conversation. Now, I think I spoke about this on IG already, so I'm gonna kind of go back over what I personally think this is linked to and what is actually showing up with the arrest of the two gentlemen. We have to be mindful that anytime there are corporations, it's just like having a club. And whoever is running those corporations, the genre of those people, the nationality of those people, yes, the complexion of the people, it does matter in how they run their system. Even if they're engaging in a world of multiculturalism, they do uphold the same principles and standards as people in those genres. Meaning that if they are Euro-Saxons, and remember, StarBucks is really, really associated with a certain demographics of people, meaning that it's very corporate based, meaning that it caters to those who are in corporate based and also colleges, collegiate type of folks. Also, it caters to those on high-end socio-economical demographics, as well as the coffee is not necessarily something that is inexpensive or practical in that sense. Okay, so knowing that most and the majority of people who engage in Starbucks in any capacity, whether they're regulars or whether they're people who are just a novice to the genre of Starbucks, they all have a pre-thought of what they are going to engage in when they're going inside of a Starbucks facility anywhere. That being said, when you know the home court advantage of any corporation, now listen, I'm stating this as I want to give you a full synopsis of what I really know is going on with this scenario. You know that, listen, if you come in my house, my home, Flurboon's home, you know that I have children, right? So you can't come in my house cursing, doing all kinds of things you want. You have an invitation maybe to come to my house, or maybe I'm having an open house where I'm having people that, that I kind of know or what have you, but they're coming in my home. They know that I have children. They know that I have a dog. They also know that I'm most likely into the veggie lifestyle, so they know that they can't bring hamburgers, chicken, and stuff in the house, right? Also, they know it's probably by invitation, or maybe I'm holding some sort of, some sort of function. So when they come in the house, there's an expectation that they know what they're walking into. It's kind of like with Starbucks. When you walk into a placement that is known to be corporate, high-end, bougie, stushy, whatever you call it, maybe college-based. It can be college-based too, because a lot of coffee shops really do cater to the collegiate genre as well, especially outside of campuses in certain cities, especially in the West Coast and in the East Coast. You'll see that a lot of times outside, especially New York City. You'll see a lot of coffee shops, Starbucks, not just Starbucks, but other coffee shops that really cater to that demographics of people. So when you walk in there, you have an ideology of what is the expectation or what the overall consensus of the genre is going to be. When these two men walked in, I'm sure that they knew what they were going to. Starbucks is everywhere, and again, it is where a lot of people go and do meet and greets. A lot of times when you're going on your blind dates, people meet up at Starbucks. That's a very good meet and greet place, and a lot of mommies do sometimes there, especially with the babies, they do the meetups there. So it's not uncommon that people go there to do corporate exchange, business conversations over coffee. It's very normal. It's probably one of the normalities of how Starbucks has engaged with the public for the longest time, from the inception. When these two men went inside, they sat down, as most people do, and they were waiting for another third party. I think what is going on here is a combination platter. I actually don't think it's one thing. I think it's a multitude of things that played into the disregard, and listen to what I said, the disregard and the overreaction with a level of compextionism and bias that played into their arrest, obviously. But I want to speak to the boycotts and the picketing and the very sensitized reaction to those young men being arrested in Starbucks. Hold on. Hi, how are you? Good. Sorry. This is live. You know, I'm talking to people, so I hope you can excuse me when I occasionally speak to somebody. That's just what I do. Anyway, so when we're talking about all the picketing and the you know, protests and going instead of Starbucks and saying that, you know, it's unfairly biased and so on, let's kind of go back a little bit. We do know that the employee, I think she was a manager, that did make the call to the police, probably 2 minutes after the gentleman entered the facility, was she did lose her job. So there was a consequence to someone who was in their own mindset, probably based in complexianism and bias, which many of us know was definitely the case. But I wanted to speak to the uproar that has happened when these two men were obviously taken unjustly, and someone shot the gun a little too quick. I mean, obviously you can usher somebody out of a facility if not purchasing anything. I think that's appropriate. I think if anything, yes, many people sit in Starbucks without, but I think any facility has the right to remove anyone, and unfortunately sometimes it will be biased based on complexion rather than actually having a reasonable reason to you know, excommunicate somebody from your facility for just not having anything. Because we know many times, like I've shown you in the picture, there are people who sit in Starbucks all day, use the Wi-Fi, it's a free amenity of being part of Starbucks, and they drink water. If not, they just sit in there by themselves, and I've done that myself, even though I'm a patron of Starbucks in most ways. But where I say that I would be careful in really seeing this with a narrow stroke. Why do I say that? Because I notice that there is really an imbalance in the reactions that occur within the realm of what we consider to be complexianism. I know that when I have seen, heard, witnessed, or have third-party information intel about when a woman of color is beaten in front of her family or people, or a woman of color is being disrespected and disregarded and spoken disdainfully in a public platform, sometimes by somebody on a facility placement, or when I see women of color who are being outwardly disrespected or disregarded as far as reputation-wise by many in the NFL or NBA fields, when men are overtly disrespecting their wives and embarrassing them by engaging in extramarital affairs publicly, and they're allotted to do that, and many women realize a lot of times that this is done under the guise of other males who are, if not engaging in the same behavior, are complicit with it based on the fact that they're not reacting overtly, protesting these men or calling them out or saying, you know, this is wrong, or protesting the behavior that is harmful or hurtful to a woman of color who is obviously being either abused, neglected, or publicly embarrassed. I find there's imbalance in the public stance as far as this is concerned. I find it very interesting that there is a lot of uproar and public outrage when it comes to when brown males are obviously being abused, murdered, falsely accused of something, or being arrested. But what I find is that there is limited reaction when it comes to a brown woman who is being just as disregarded, if not more, being abused publicly by a person in the public eye who's associated with any facility. It could be, like I said, it could be an NBA player, it could be an NFL player, it could be a rapper, or it could be a businessman. I rarely see anyone who sits and has public protests in the abuses that happen to women, especially women of color. So when I bring up, is Starbucks engaging in complexianism, or is it really brown male Karmicism? I personally know it's a bit of both. Yes, it is bias that is occurring to brown males on a massive scale. I've spoken about this publicly. I obviously see that there is a reaction by the environment towards brown males, whether it be brown males being shot in the middle of the street with their arms up in the air, whether it's brown males' organs being harvested and sold to the highest bidder on the black market, whether it's brown males being shot dead by another brother in his own neighborhood based on some sort of repercussion of some, gang-based behavior, whether it's done by policemen who are outside of the neighborhood who are actually engaged in slaughtering these males. But what we never speak about is why we know that we manifest and we're engaging in a world that is karmically based, whether we choose to fully acknowledge that or not. And when we have a society, which since the late 40s, beginning of the 50s, where brown males have been leaving the homes at a highest rate, more than any of their other outside complexion counterparts, meaning that there are lunar males, European males, that actually leave their homes as well and have affairs. But when we put them side to side, if we did a sample of the two, based on obviously numbers, because remember, in this country we have a smaller demographics of people of color in this country as opposed to our European sect. So if we put it side by side and we see what males are doing to their female counterparts that are their visual equal, meaning that Europeans to European women, lunar to lunar male, brown male to brown woman, we notice that there is an unhealthy disregard when it comes to brown women, brown male interaction, meaning that you'll see a heightened amount of brown males leaving their households with children who are not being fathered and are actually being left with possibility of inception of another male, or possibly abuses happening because there's no male holding up the home court and creating a healthy and a protected household. Males do provide, if they're healthy, do provide protection and Willie Lynch syndrome, absolutely, Kuri, absolutely. And what happens is that with the systematic depletion of brown males in households and the overt disregard and disrespect to brown women, to themselves, person to person, yes, but no, I agree, but we have to bring up karma here, because what happens is that what you do to you and yours will come back in the form of someone doing it to you and yours, meaning that when we were actually more cohesive as brown to brown people, you notice that even in a systematic system of quote unquote oppression, which existed based on the home court advantage previously, there was a healthier household and much more of a wonderful family synced relationship between people and environment, and much more was being accountable to the as far as getting more accountability based on people being bonded together as a family system, father, mother, grandfather, mother, grandmother, still in household in sync with a respect and a good loyalty to the group, to the facility of the family. I found that when those families were still in connection and synced, that the environment, even if hostile, had more consequences that were in sync to the unity. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm stating is that what I'm noticing with brown males is more karma based on the fact that they have a heightened amount of disrespect, disregard to the brown female counterparts. And also I'm seeing that as they do to their partners, whether it be their mothers, the disrespect to their mothers, their daughters, their wives, their girlfriends, their children's mothers, it is showing up in how the environment treats them. What you do is your karma. So if you are mistreating your own counterpart that you call as your lover, your wife, your girlfriend, your mother, your sister, then there will be a karmic residue that will show in the over system of others who treat you the way that you treat those who you visually are of a genetic counterpart to. Why am I saying this? People were saying, oh, Flurbo, you're going over the top. How could you say that? You're saying they deserve it. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is what goes around comes around. You cannot sit idly and be a male and see your homies, because I will sit in circles, and I've spoke about this on IG the other day. I've sat in circles where you hear men talk about how they're hurting their girlfriends and how the girl was crying and she was acting like a baby because he hurt her heart. And his homeboy sitting there laughing, making jokes about breaking someone's heart. How is that acceptable behavior? Why is there no male to male accountability, showing a male saying to a male, that's not okay for you to hurt someone that you say that you love, regardless of what you want to do? But why is that okay for males to sit around other males who they know are doing harmful things to females that they're actually engaged with, meaning that physically or otherwise, or mothers or children, mother of the children, which is even much bigger a bond, because obviously if these women are taking care of their offspring, that's more the reason to be very protective and making sure that she's healthy mentally and physically. Absolutely, there's an agenda. I personally, well, it's kind of like that conversation, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Okay, we know that there was a systematic agenda to break up the Brown family, yes. But the fact of the matter is, the majority of people who are engaged in breaking the family are not the females, it is the males. Meaning that most females, Brown, Lunars, whatever female, will generally stay and hold a family system up because they want to uphold a healthy base for their families, their seeds, and otherwise in their family system. So that is very true, but why is it that the women, even under the same guise and the abuses of the Willie Lynch syndrome, why is it that the women will uphold the household and try their best and hardest, even under abuses and censure and resistance? So we have to think now, let's go back to this conversation about StarBucks. Let's go back. When you see two brown males sitting inside doing nothing, not doing harm to anyone, but they're being excommunicated, they're being asked to leave unfairly, how many times has a woman been with a man and he's removed himself for her with no question, no excuse, and no provocation? How many times has that happened? More times than we can count, right? So when we look at the outside world and we see what's happening with men who are known to, if we're putting samples of two different demographics of people, we're not talking about, sorry, I'm getting called right now. If you put side by side to another demographics of people, why is it that you're seeing that brown males are abusing their women to a heightened degree? I'm not saying there's, now listen family, I'm not speaking of, I'm not going to do videos on my phone anymore. I like to do it on my phone because it's so small. I apologize. I'm getting phone calls back to back to back. Anyway, so let me go back to my train of thought. So when you see these beautiful brown males, these were young brown males, college educated, which you could see. They were seated in a way. They were not being aggressive in any way, and they were asked to leave unfairly. I do agree. But if we are going to talk about having a reaction to such injustice, then why don't we have the same to equal, if not more, a reaction to those brown women who are being abused and degraded and being excommunicated out of their families and publicly embarrassed and humiliated? Why don't we have as many protests and protest these men on teams that are represented by big bucks? Why aren't we seeing other men making other men accountable for hurting the hearts and the family systems of females that look and liken to their genetic makeup? Why are we not seeing that? So when you see this, and I see an imbalanced reaction based on absolutely something that I know to be biased, with these young men, why aren't we seeing an equal reaction to those women who daily are being humiliated and abused by brown men on a regular basis, their own brown men? Because the majority of women that are brown are abused by the majority of men that are brown. Whereas brown men tend to sometimes, obviously, there's a big heightened, obviously, because we're in close communities, people of same will abuse people of same. I get that. A lot of people say, well, we're in the same community, so we'll abuse each other. I agree. But when you see the environment reacting to a group of people based on their own behavior to their own people, then you should ask yourself, is this karma playing out based on their own detachment and abuses and neglect of people? Why do we see that Tame Mayor, this is what I spoke about on IG, I see Tame Mayor, who is a big time, is he on YouTube? It's YouTube. Tame Mayor has millions of subscribers, and he talks and disgraces and disregards brown women. That is the premise of his whole platform. Why is it that 90% of the people on his platform are brown males? Why is it that brown males are supporting a man who talks disparagingly about elderly brown women, young brown women, and middle-aged brown women normally? Where is the accountability, and where is the uproar, and where are the protests regarding women of color that get abused daily, that are talked about daily, that are humiliated, that are left under the guise of not having a male in their household, so they leave for inception of another male to come and harm their offspring or to harm them? Where is the accountability? Where are the males who are in uproar right now? Because I see plenty of females. Listen, big up to the females, big up to the C-stars who represent, who always protest and take care of and stand up for injustice in any way. But where is the standing up of brown males and the uproar, or the checking their homies when their homies are doing harm to other females? Where is the show? Where's the consequence? I'm not saying you shouldn't protest for StarBucks if you feel that they were unjustly removed. By all means, I don't say that you shouldn't. But if you do it, please make sure that when you are a brown male and you're sitting in the company of your homeboys who are talking about how they just made another woman cry in his household that he says he loves and he has children with, make sure that you do the protest for him as well. Make sure you don't hang out with somebody who hurts someone's heart. Make sure that you're just as disgusted that someone could hurt someone who is still suffering under the guise of Willie Lynch. Let's see some accountability there. So when we see StarBucks, let me take a sip. And mind you, the picture that I showed in my thumbnail picture for this video, notice there's a beautiful brown woman. She is homeless, sitting comfortably in my neck of the woods, where it's not a lot of brown people, if not any. She's given a newspaper, she's being respected, and she has air because it's very warm in Florida. She's allowed to use the bathroom. I think it's appropriate, and I think it's telling. How many brown women go into stores and get accosted and thrown out? I mean, I'm sure it happens every once in a while, but how many? How many brown women are being abused out by public officers? I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it does, but how many in comparison to brown males? Karma is real. When you disregard your own, when I say own, your genetic offspring, the people who are genetically closest to you, when you disregard the female base of those, and you sit in apathy and non-consequence, or just silent, while while others are abusing people that you know. Because a lot of times when we hear about these public executions, these are something that are done by people who don't know each other. And it's disgusting, because people are in uproar, like, how can these officers go and murder these boys, which is absolutely terrible and awful. Absolutely. But why do I not see an uproar when like I told you the story, and I'll say it again, because I think I told it on IG and on Cypher, is that I remember in my youth, I was maybe, I don't know, 18, 241st. Many of you are from New York. Many of you know, well, some people know me from the platform from when I was young. So 18 in New York, a man on 241st was beating his wife, a brown male beating his brown female, and the baby was still in her stroller. Many of you from New York can know what I'm talking about because you've seen this more than comfortably you'd like to admit. He's beating her. I mean, literally beating her to a pulp. So I stand across the street, close to the steps of the subway, and listen, Flurburn, I don't tell you, I don't curse on you publicly, but he heard every expletive out my mouth. I was calling him names because I was letting him know that I'm not okay with it. Let me explain to you, family. You know how many men walked by this man beating that woman with the baby there? Do you know how many men? Listen, I'm not talking. There were women too, but women were the ones backing up and scared for her and walking and stopping. You know how many men passed by this man, this grown man who was probably 2 times the size of this woman or 3 times the size, beating her while the child is screaming bloody murder. I'm standing across the street as an 18-year-old girl, yelling and screaming, calling him all kinds of names. That man with his Timberlands came for me. He ran across the street. You know, most of you know he take the subway. I did double steps, so I jumped double steps up each step. I ran double step. I jumped the turnstile. Big up to when you could jump the turnstiles back in the days. And I jumped on the front of the train where the conductor was. He couldn't get on the train, but he was coming to beat my behind. But I got him off her. Why is it that I was more in uproar and disgusted of his behavior than any man who passed by and thought that was okay? Complicity means you think it's okay. It means that that's something that you think is normal. Now, why do I share this story? Because I want to say that if we are going to be in uproar about one aspect of the disparaging behavior in the environment, we have to be just as disgusted and just as proactive in being in protest, or, you know, I'm not big in protest, or anti to a behavior that is just as reprehensible. Every day there are women who are being beaten in their households. Every day. And let me explain something, family, because you're like, oh, this is StarBucks, this is a corporation. Let me talk about it. You know how many men are from corporate positions, or they work for the mail office, or they work, or they're, like I said, they're sports figures, or they're in the industry. So if you hear something about R. Kelly, let's get into R. Kelly. If you hear something about R. Kelly molesting little young children, right? So you hear this, and you know some of it is true. Like I said, when there's smoke, there's fire. You know some of it is true. We don't know everything, but let's say for every for every 10 accusations, maybe 1 or 2 are true. Maybe, okay? Allegedly. So let's say this is the case. Why is it that the majority of people who still purchase R. Kelly's albums to this day, they have it listed because they do the census, are brown women? Listen to me, family. Listen to what I said. Why is it the majority of people that are buying R. Kelly? Because I know men who buy R. Kelly. I'm talking about women who buy R. Kelly. The biggest components and the biggest demographics of resources to R. Kelly is from brown women, and majority are mothers. But you protest 2 men being arrested inside of a Starbucks, but you won't protest and not support a man who is sticking his penis in girls that are young ladies, that are little girls. So when someone says to me, oh, Flurburn, you're still drinking Starbucks coffee, I say to them, you're still hanging with your homie, who you know is sleeping around with a friend's wife. So if you come for me, make sure your house is clean. We have to understand that as we are out of the home court advantage of patriarchy, that now all will be revealed. And if brown males are allowing and speaking up for or speaking to the misbehavior or the abuses to their homies, and speaking up against abuses of women, then maybe I wouldn't have this conversation, and maybe karma would show itself, and that karmically there would be less of abuses to them in the environment, because what you do is what you bring to you. all these slayings to brown males, if we look at the ownership of what's happening in the communities with brown males, we will see that they are abusing and neglecting and doing the most heinous things to brown women. Like I said, if Tommy Sotomayor can be one of the biggest featured, what is he, like a blog person, whatever he is, but all he does, his whole platform is made on the hatred of brown women. Though he has a beautiful brown girl, little girl, what does that speak to? You cannot abuse your own. And when I say your own, visual, genetic likeness own, and think that there is no karma for it. So we must make sure that we don't sit and join the pity party of those who are actually needing to see themselves being in the same abuses as the things that they are complacently allowing in and around their environment. Especially having to do with their mothers, sisters, aunties, cousins, wives, babies, mothers, what have you. For every man that hurts and harms a brown woman, and I'm speaking to just brown women now because that's the demographics of people that I'm just talking to, because we're talking about brown men being taken from a StarBucks. If we're talking to that demographics of people, then we have to speak to what we see, because the majority of brown men now have the least amount of affections for their brown female counterparts. And yes, we know this is systematically being placated, but we also know that brown women are under the same system, but they are not reacting in the same way. I'm just reading comments. Yes, everyone's house should be clean if they come from each other. But this is really going on. And again, big up to Jewel Prookman, Dr. Jewel Prookman, who really, I think years ago, when I first was made aware of Jewel Prookman, Dr. Jewel Prookman, you know, she really allowed me a different perspective. Because for everything we see out here, including with ourselves, it has to do with how we're treated, how we treat others. We are. Everything that happens to us is basically an action and a reaction coming back. Everything's a ricochet. And if we understand that if we're seeing something outwardly amongst the bigger demographics of people, we have to understand that there's something happening on a karmic level that is showing up to teach us something. And like I said, I know that what is happening out here with our brown males is happening because of the lack of empathy and connectiveness that they are allotting with their brown female counterparts. For every time that, now I'm not talking about our sun stars, because this was one thing that I love that I know. I'm grateful to know some of the most phenomenal brown men and all demographics. I am so grateful to just know phenomenal men of all complexions. I'm grateful that I had a father who showed me, and even with my choice of mate later, that was not to the best of my, wasn't my best, like I said, I wouldn't say it was, I think karmically it was what I needed, and believe me, that relationship made me into a better person. But growing up with a male, my dad and my older brother and my uncles who upheld themselves to a higher standard and level of astuteness and respect. And they weren't perfect, but they showed me, they allowed me to know that exists, and I'm grateful for that. So I can speak on this because I know some of the most phenomenal sun stars. I do in all aspects, every aspect, and I'm grateful for that. So, and these are also men that in their homies reflect who they are as well. Birds of a feather flock together. So when I'm talking about the sun stars, these are sun stars who walk around amongst other men that have wonderful, very healthy self-esteem, and also they are very, very proactive into making change, as opposed to just sitting there idly and complaining about it. They're living it. They're being about it. These are the men that I know that go out and do public services. These are the men who donate their time to help the youth in inner cities and otherwise. These are the men who I know, even in their actions and their occupations, are upholding themselves to the highest level of standards so that they can be good role models, and they are the pillars of our communities so that we can look up, and also for the youth to have these wonderful lanterns to be able to look and let that be someone to eventually want to be like. I don't know how to do this. Sorry, family. I made this really, really close. Hold on. Okay. And when others speak about, Flurbo, why aren't you talking about other complexions of people? I take care of my house first before I go into other people's households. So if my house is dirty, why am I going to speak about other people's households? Do you know what I mean? So when people sit here and they make complaints about other complexion of people, I'm like, let's clean our house up first. I'm going to clean my house first, and I'm going to speak about what I need to fix about me first. And then when I speak about what I'm fixing and what my house is clean, then I can maybe go and maybe address things that are maybe not as clean on the outside of my house. Do you see what I mean? So rather than everyone talk about lunars and what the system is doing, why don't we clean up our houses first? If I got which I actually do, if I have a whole bunch of laundry right now and I got to clean my kitchen and I have to do things like that, why am I talking about your house is dirty? Why am I even caring about your house? What am I doing? I'm trying to throw off my own responsibilities, what I need to address first, and go into your house. I'm not going to speak about other people that look differently than me right now, because it's not my place. I talk about my house. That's why you always hear me big up my mother and father. I don't big up Haru. I'm not bigging up Isis. I'm not giving props to Osiris. I'm giving props to my own personal genetic lineage that I know personally, that reared me and created the being and the mentality that I am today. I'm okay when people do ashe, ashe to the ancestors of so-and-so and ashe to the Kemetic ancestors. That's cool and everything, but where are your ashes to Auntie Grace, who used to raise you and made sure you were safe and that you didn't break your leg every day outside, or she used to go and bake you cookies whenever you got sick? Where's your big up to Auntie Grace that's no longer on earth? Why aren't you giving ashes to your immediate ancestors before going outside and giving props to those that you don't even know exist? It's all good in the hood if we take care of each other. It's all good in the hood if we have respect for one another. But when you see one counterpart abusing another counterpart, and then you're upset that abusive one is being treated like a dirty dog in the street, then maybe you need to see things from a different angle. Don't start none, won't be none. For every action, there's a equal reaction. And if you sit idly, and I'm talking to our sun stars, because really our sun stars know this already, and please, our suns, you know why our sun stars don't get upset? Because they know I'm not speaking to them. This is the wonderful thing about men who are accountable and who live in astuteness. So this conversation doesn't offend them. You know who this conversation will offend? Those who are not doing right. Those who sit complicit and allow their homeboys to disrespect their wives and daughters and so on. These are the men who sit idly and complain about the system, but they are part of the reason why the system is jacked up in their own direct behavior towards their own personal direct counterparts. Where is the accountability? If I'm sitting there and listen, and my girlfriend, and I know her husband, and I've had to do this. I have a girlfriend who I know is doing dirt to her husband, and she's talking nasty to him in front of him. That's not my friend. You are not going to speak about your husband or your other counterpart who I know is holding you down, who I know is treating you well, and I know who's a good father. If I sit there idly and allow you to talk and disrespect him, then what does that say about me? So I'm not just talking to men being accountable with their homies. I'm telling us as women, if you know women not doing right or being abusive or neglecting or doing things that you know to be against what we consider to be just healthy, then you should speak to it. And of course, if they are not upholding themselves to a degree of balance and healthiness, then why would you rock with them unless you are like that yourself? Because birds of a feather, like I said, birds of a feather flock together. So, do I feel bad for the homies that got kicked out of StarBucks? Absolutely. Did they deserve it? Absolutely not. But is it karmic residue? Probably placating in the reason why that happens? Absolutely. I'm asking for our males. And when you do better, you see better. I'm asking for you to finally take some personal responsibility for what is occurring out in the public eye. For every time you sit idly and allow for others to be disrespected, male, female, otherwise, then there will be some karmic debt for you and those who are in your like sex, meaning your same genre of sex, will have a consequence as well. We not only get karma personally, we get karma environmentally, and also we get karma based on our own group behavior, group karma. So if you're in the same genre of group of people who do things or engage in a very common behavior amongst each other, then there will be a group karma to pay for that. The residual will come karmically in that group, whoever it is. Like I said, even with what happened to me on YouTube with my page, people sat around who've known me for years talking about melanated ETs, what have you, and sat around and allowed someone to talk about me like a dirty dog, the person who didn't know me, and that let me know that I can't rock with you. If I know you and somebody talks about you, even if I don't know you, if they're talking nasty about something, I'm not sitting in that conversation. I don't want to have that conversation with you, especially if you don't know that person. How dare you? But if you know them, it's worse. Because if you allow somebody to talk about somebody else that they supposedly are lying in bed with, and they've created children with, and they're talking about them like hell on earth, then what does that say about who they are? And also that says, how could you trust somebody who is not trustworthy? Because someone who can talk so disparaging about somebody that they're engaged with in a physical way, then that is a testament to what they can do to you. So if our males, brown males, want a difference to be seen and they want to stop being hunted down like dirty dogs in the street, then their behavior towards their brown female counterparts, because remember, we are created for each other. That's just what it is. The environment creates male and female for a reason. It's duplicity. It's duality. Sorry, it's duplicity. It's not duplicity. It's duality. Okay. So for every brown female is a brown male created. So it's a mirroring effect. So how you treat me is how you will be treated. Now it may not come back from me, but the environment will triple that effect karmically to you. Your karma is what you do. So when Tommy Mayor is making jokes about brown women's hair, their beautiful coily hair that is made for them to pick up the galactic information from the sun, why is that something that people could find hilarious and speak so nasty about? How could you sit as brown males and listen to another brown male while he has a beautiful brown daughter talk so disparagingly about brown women and how he doesn't want to mess with them? It's all telling about how he feels about himself. When someone has so much hate towards the people that look just like him, that's a testament of how he feels about himself. He doesn't like himself. Someone asked me the other day, what is your, no. Someone met my mate. It was the other day. Big ups to Kirk. Someone met my mate. They were like, oh my gosh, your mate, you look so alike. I'm okay with me. I picked a mate that is similar to me. I picked a mate that actually comes from a similar family background as me. You know why I did that? Because I actually am okay with myself. I have moments, remember, I struggled with self-esteem, I struggled with issues when I was in my youth, but as I grew, started to heal myself, started to be much more self-aware, then that showed up in my environment. And I picked a mate that's very much like to myself, visually and otherwise, in frequency components. Okay? So when someone is in hatred of self, they will show that in the partnerships that they pick and also in the denial of partnerships, because by excommunicating a group of women that look like yourself, it is a testament of how you feel about your mother, how you feel about your family, and how do you feel about your gene pool. Now, I'm not saying, because, when we talk about unity consciousness, we're not talking about levels of sexuality and mating. That's something different. We can unite as a people absolutely beautifully, and many people mate amongst each other. I'm not talking about that. So make sure we stay along the line of what I'm discussing right now. We're talking about a group of males who have totally, and a higher number than most, have grouped together to have a totally disregard and disrespect and total almost are not engaging at all with their own female mirroring counterparts. And that's a testament to their sickness and their mental instability and psychological, well, it shows the psychological warfare has done a number on them as well. And also, I have to also put a little bit of spin on this too, because as mothers, we have to make sure that when we have sons, big ups to the mommies who have little boys. I love you. I support you. I want to talk to that. Mothers who have sons also have to see you in a beautiful way. If you want them to pick women that are like you, that you want to be similar to you, you have to uphold a way of, you have to have a certain air about you and protection, a protective quality. Also, you have to have a nurturing quality, and also you have to uphold yourself in the highest esteem so that he gears and he is motivated to pick a woman who is likened to his mother. We're starting to see a lot of males in the environment, brown males especially. I'm not saying that there aren't other males like this, but brown males who are purposefully not picking women. They're actually picking women that look opposite of their mothers and don't, or are nothing like them. And that's also a testament to the rearing. So we have to speak to the abuses of women showing up in the women not loving themselves, and also maybe being very tired or taxed. They're unable to nurture their children based on the fact that they don't have time, because again, brown males have left the household, so they put a lot on the one female to do everything. So that also puts a lot of pressure on her, and she doesn't have a lot of time to cultivate herself, nurture herself, and it shows up in how she shows up for her children. An overtaxed mother. Listen, mommies, big up to the mommies on here. Mommies, every mommy. Lunar, Asiatic mommies, brown mommies, Moorish mommies. You already know. For us, we do it all. We cook and clean. We are nurses. We are the library. We're library people. We are the doctors. We are the head shrinks. We are the facilitators. We are, what else? We're the referees. We're everything. Big up to all the mommies, every mommy on here. You do it, you rock, and even if it's hard for you, I know you. I know you, and I know what it is that you go through. And I don't want to get on mothers for not having enough, because I think it's a testament that when you have a male, again, who's left the household and put too much on you. Now, I don't think every male is for every household. I think there's certain women that come from certain species of ET. Now, I don't want to get into the ETs, but you know what? I think we come from different cloths. But I think that if you pick a male, make sure that even if he's not a male that can be within your household, that he can at least uphold your household. Listen to me, because that's healthy too. Because if a man is making you comfortable so that you can monitor and uphold your household in comfort without stress, it is also a testament that he is somewhat healthy, even if he's not in the household. Because a father does not necessarily have to be in-house to be a daddy. He can be someone who makes sure that his offspring and the mother of his children are upheld to a standard, so they're protected, they're safe, they have all their needs covered, as a male usually does, and that she doesn't have as much stress and overwhelmment, so that she can be in the highest form of matriarchy possible for your children to look up to. I think that's healthy in itself. Okay, so we have to speak on that too, because even if a father's not in the household, doesn't mean he doesn't assist in some way. So mommies, you rock, and I know it's hard, and I know it can be challenging, and I understand it. And remember, I'm a woman of a certain age. I had 2 beautiful little ones that I loved and I chose. And I remember not getting sleep. I remember being delirious sometimes, and I also remember the people that were very helpful and overstanding and assisted and were patient. I remember all those things. But mommies with little boys, I want you to uphold yourself in the highest esteem, because what happens a lot of times is your overwhelmment, you struggling, is also motivation for him to pick a woman who doesn't have that in her life. And that may mean picking another woman that doesn't look like you because her life is easier, and he won't pick a woman that has as many struggles. Okay? I'm just saying. A lot of times that's what we're seeing too. Men picking the opposite of their mothers because their mothers represent struggle and abuses and sadness. So they'll pick mothers that look totally different than their mother and totally opposite in behavior of their mother because their mother is a representation of pain. And to be honest, that I understand why they do that. Psychologically, you can understand it. So we can't get mad at males for jumping. Somebody said, oh, they're jumping ship. It's not that they're jumping ship, it's that they're going to where they think it's safer and better for their children. And you can't get mad at anyone for wanting to do that, because also it's healthy for women to do that as well. But the issue we have at hand here is mommies need to take care of mommies. Okay? And if a mommy takes care of herself and she's able to have that time for herself and she can illuminate herself, remember, your sons will always choose their mothers if the mother's healthy and she's happy. I've never seen any other way. Okay? And even in doing clinical studies, you will see that a lot of times that a healthy mother will, the offspring will, even females, healthy mothers, the offspring will pick healthier mates based on what they saw their mother being or expressing. Okay, so mommy, if you need a break, this is why it's very important for us to have respite for one another. Big up to the Mocha moms. When I gave birth to my children, my husband was at work all the time. He was always out. I had the babies, and I was a farmer, so I had babies on the hip. My hair was down. I usually had a pencil up with sundresses on because I was nursing all the time. I was gardening because I was growing food for the babies and myself, and I was doing it on my own. But big up to the mommies, Mocha mommies who came. They made me breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my family for like a month or 2, something like that. They gave me respite, and I was so grateful. Brown women, big up to the Mocha moms, they did that. And I love that I joined a mommies group that was able to do that. I was really grateful because there was a lot of times as a mother, and it just was what it is. You have newborns, you have babies, you have toddlers. It was very difficult to take care of yourself. And many of you have that overwhelmment, plus you are going to work. I was grateful that I was able to stay home with the babies. But for those mothers who don't even have that, they have to go to work, they need that. They need that time. They need the time on the weekends to maybe just take a moment for themselves. And because of their lack of doing that and having that, what happens is that the little ones, the male, especially males, and little girls, but we're not talking about little girls right now, we're talking about little brown males, will see their mother's expression of pain and hardship, and they will pick everything the opposite of that because that represents pain for them. We don't speak about that. We need to. And we need to speak about it from the premise of being a position of being a mother. So for mommies on here, please, if you have girlfriends and you have children, I joined a mommies group who did it, but listen, collectively get together, even if it's just 2 of you. Say, listen, on Saturday, I need a nap. Listen to me. Sleep deprivation is another one reason. And now someone's going to say, is this all on the StarBucks? Yes, it is, because we have males showing up in the populace in a certain way. So it's trickling over into all arenas of how we engage with them in the matrix and what is happening to them karmically. Okay? So when you have males who are in opposition of the females that look like them genetically, then what happens that they're going to get a karmic residual that shows up globally. Okay? And then we're seeing this. So if we can incept this by their youth, in their childhood, and being mothers that, listen, I will say this though. In the animal kingdom, the mama bear, the lioness, and the cheetahs and most of the fiercest animals do not require a male to rear their children. I will say that. So it's not a requirement, but a male is healthy if he brings healthy resources to his family base. That is really what I think is necessary as a requirement, because he will bring ease to his female. He will bring ease to the mother so that she is able to nurture those babies and uphold herself with a healthy disposition, so the babies look up to her and they want that in their lives. And those little boys will grow up one day and they see, listen, my mama was beautiful. You just like my mommy. I want you to be. Men will pick women that are more like their mothers. They'll pick beautiful, healthy women that have good, healthy self-esteem because they saw their mothers like that. That's it. Men need to protect and provide for the mothers. That's real life. Absolutely. That's really the basics. I think this is where we go into relationships and mating and all that. Are you boycotting StarBucks? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because I'm balanced. I don't boycott anything. I don't anti anything. The only thing you see is I will not conduct myself. I will conduct myself in an appropriate way. I will be respectful to others. I will hold my way in a healthy system. And when I go to Starbucks, and anything I see in the Starbucks I go to reflects what I do in my life. So what I see publicly in Starbucks, like I said, I have a picture of a beautiful brown woman who's homeless in the Starbucks that I go to every day. And she's sitting comfortably, and they give her a newspaper so she could sit there, and she goes in the bathroom and cleans herself as soon as she comes in the morning, and she leaves in the evening. And they give her water. Occasionally they give her a couple of, what is it, that pink drink? I forgot what it's called, hyssop tea or some tea they give her sometimes. Okay? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Male bears will kill off their offspring. And other males will also kill off the offspring of other male children. So, listen, I'm not judging you. In other way, I'm a mama, and I'm a mama bear. I was a facilitator of babies. My mother was a teacher for over 35 to 40 years. I was in her classroom and I taught myself. I'm a facilitator of children. That's one thing that is my premise. I'm a upholder of the light for the children and the families. I am a supporter of that to the highest degree. The babies, before I had children, remember, I was the latest amongst my homegirls to have children. I was a little more seasoned when I had children. My girlfriends had children. Whose house did you think they birthed those babies over? And I was a young girl in college. Whose house do you think they brought them over? Flurbrun's house. You know why? Because Flurbrun wasn't going to have any males around those babies. I didn't care who was around. I didn't care if you was dating you or anything. I didn't have boyfriends at the time. When I was younger, I only had like one boyfriend. So I didn't really have boys like that. But they would bring every baby over the house. I didn't care. And they would do whatever they were doing, it didn't matter. They say, Flurbrun, can I come over the house and bring her? I was home. You know what I did? I made sure they were safe. I made sure they gave them all the goodies, because that's what I did. Me and my mommy were like that. My mom is like that to this day. They come over. They knew that the children were safe every single time. Even to this day, people who talk the most smack about me publicly, I'd be the first person they bring their children to. Because I have zero tolerance for anything other than love and protection. That's what I do. I uphold that with my own offspring, and I will do it with yours. Brown, green, light in between. I don't care if the babies are beautiful blue-eyed and blonde hair. I don't care if the babies have red hair. I don't care if the babies have beautiful coily hair, beautiful chocolate skin. Those babies will be safe in my arms and in my household. So I'm just saying, I'm speaking from a position that I exist. I make sure, and I tell my girlfriends or whoever I speak to, do not bring males around your children like that. It is not their natural propensity to be around other men's offspring. There are some wonderful males that have a wonderful disposition, but they're far and few. Do you hear me? They are far and few. A male, listen, I have stories that I could tell you that males will do whatever they want to get with you because they want to be with you. But as soon as he gets your love and attention and he has you and he gets you pregnant with his own offspring, best believe he's going to perhaps mistreat your offspring with another male. That is his natural propensity. Not all males do that. Listen to what I said. I said not all males do that, but the majority are like that. Don't have males up in your household with your offspring. And that's also why we're getting males growing up with abusive dispositions to females, because their mothers did not uphold themselves properly and allow their children to see and to be exposed to too many things in that house. If you have children, it is a responsibility that you should choose prior to getting pregnant. Yeah. Men should not be exposed to their children if they're not the if they're not the offspring's father. You should not allow another male around those children, especially in their more vulnerable years when they can't defend themselves. Okay? And again, I'm a woman of a certain age and I'm seasoned. I've seen it all. And 90% of the time, those males want to be with you. They don't want your offspring. And like I said, the ones who have men who are very loving, who are just nurturing, they come from families like that. Those are just men who are just naturally like that, but it's not normal. So when we fast forward to hearing karmic deaths of men, brown men being shot like dogs, it's because they've grown up with dispositions of disregarding their brown females, and karmically, universally, the world will treat them how they treat their own. So, am I protesting? I said Blockbuster. Shows you where my mind is. Am I protesting StarBucks? Negative. Protesting is not something. Protest, it just listen to the word pro. Anything you try to go against is going to have an anti to. So pro is, anything you protest is your pro for. Okay, so I will align myself. Oh, my batteries are getting low. Okay, I will align myself. So wait, do you drink Starbucks? I drink Starbucks every day. I should be a company. Listen, Yamaya. Yeah, I know, I missed Blockbuster. Yamaya is on this. The brown goddess. Real talk is probably like, oh gosh. The brown listen to this. Yamaya, Mami Wata. Hold on. Mami Wata is on the top of this, and I'm down with Mami Wata. Regardless of what corporation decided to market Mami Wata, that is a wonderful mermaid that exists. I support Mami Wata, Yamaya. I do. Oh, no, actually I do, Alpha. Yes, I do support local coffee places. I do. Whenever I can. They used to have Barney's. Remember Barney's? Barney's was for, actually they donated their money to African villages. Remember Barney's? Anybody remember Barney's? Some of you might be too young. Yeah. No, I'm not protesting anything. I'm more balanced that way. I go with what I know. The places that I go to, I appreciate the fact that all the Starbucks I go to uphold themselves in the highest standards and are very, very, very balanced and healthy. And like I said, I showed you a picture of a Starbucks that I go to daily, the one I go to daily, with a brown woman sitting there every day, and this is not a brown neighborhood, sits there every day, and she gets a newspaper and she goes to the bathroom, they leave her alone, and they're happy to have her there. So that's the kind of environment, those are the kind of Starbucks I go to. So we have to be mindful too, to be into what exists in our world, okay? Now again, was it right for these brown men to be removed? Absolutely not. Were they removed for bias? Absolutely so. Is it part of a karmic system that happens with brown males based on their own behavior towards brown females? Absolutely so. Don't start none, won't be none. Like I said, when I start seeing brown males start to protest LeBron James for cheating on his wife and making his baby's mother feel like crap and being publicly embarrassed for being with what's her name, the other woman, then yeah, maybe I might engage in something like that. But when I see an unhealthy imbalance with those who are pro and con only things that associate with things that they feel are applicable to only them in a very imbalanced way, then absolutely no. Like I said, whenever I sit in amongst circles and I hear men talk about men's wives or girlfriends and how they're laughing at them crying about being cheated on, or how they're scared of being left and they think it's funny and they think it's appropriate, or they publicly humiliate them by talking about the side chicks that they're sleeping with publicly, I really feel no empathy for the karmic debt that's showing up in the environment, because the karmic debt needs to show up in order to change people's perspectives and illuminate things that need to be changed. So when our brown males are saying this, have an imbalance, why don't we start to see y'all sit up in regard and in defense of us in a healthy way? Why don't we see that when you hear something negative about someone unfairly that looks like me, that you stand up and you say, you know what, that's not okay? Why don't you protest the places that disregard the men's places of business where they work, who do this to their own brown females? I'm sure you have a couple of homies right now talking about how they dropped it like it's hot with a girl, and their wife is at home crying with the babies at home, feeling like she's less than a person. Why don't you go and protest his job? Why don't you protest his friendship? Why don't you protest his behavior? Hello? Okay. I hear crickets. Yeah, protest bad fathers. Yes. Why don't we do that? Why don't people go out and picket and put bad fathers and put the pictures of the men who leave their children and don't help the women financially, so the women are struggling, doing 2 or 3 jobs, not getting sleep, getting mentally ill every day, and then hearing crying babies because they don't have anything. Why don't we have a protest for that? I'm down for that. Why don't we put the pictures of them up? Nobody wants to do that, right? I spoke to one of our Sun Stars on the phone the other day. Big up, he's a big YouTuber. I don't want to shout him out, but spoke to him the other day, and you know, it's crazy because we were talking about you know, what was going on with Nature Knot and how he was abusing women and the things that he was doing. And I said, you know, how I found it interesting that most men never talked about him. Most men. No, I don't hate. Oh no, I love men. I don't hate men. I love our Sun Stars. I love healthy men. I love healthy fathers. I support healthy, beautiful fathers. I support families. I support the family system of having children. I am mated with a man that I adore and love. I had a wonderful father. I have a wonderful brother. I am in alignment with divine males. I love males. I do. I have a healthy disposition with males. Okay? But I was discussing with a male about Nature Knot's disposition, and I said to him, I just found it interesting that most men wouldn't touch it, even though they knew he was doing wrong. And the one thing he said is that because most of them are doing what he does, so they don't want to talk about it because they are about it. This is another male telling me this. He said most men won't go against another male because most of them are doing exactly what males who are doing negative things to females are doing. So, you know, in that itself, I say, like I say, I am definitely in alignment. You know, one thing that I think I was accused of previously when I had such a stance on showing and illuminating things that a lot of males do that are negative, just like females. Listen, females do. Our flaws are shown daily. Men talk about our flaws. Men will talk about our flaws daily. I've told you I've had insecurity, not been self-aware. Self-loathing, I've had it all. I've had every symptom of low self-esteem, okay? I've had it, and bouts of it on and off from that. So it's not a testament that we're not talking. I'm talking from a one-way perspective. I'm talking from a perspective that, yes, a lot of women's idiosyncrasies are spoken about daily. They make shows and jokes on it. But what happens is that when males are doing just as despicable things or things that are just as disheartening to their female counterparts, it's not spoken and it's not checked. And it's not checked by even people in their own demographics, their own circles. So there's a problem. That means it's a sickness. Oh, thank you, Lynn. That's all I'm saying. I didn't, so, you know, like, don't start and won't be none. If we want to start seeing better environmentally, we have to be more mentally and self-aware. If you are in alignment with males who are doing harmful things to females, then you need to protest those males doing those things. I'm okay with if I go in an establishment and I see you doing that to any homie, you're going to be checked. I'm going to make sure I check it, and I'll make sure I'm one of those legal people that I'll go and write letters to the company. I do that well. So I will make sure that I check the establishment, I talk about it, I write to the management, and I also write to the CEO. I will do that. That's just my personality. So if I saw those men, I'm an advocate for him. But obviously, those men being kicked out, it was obviously based on bias. But again, when we talk about metaphysics, we have to bring in karmic debt here. how brown males are showing up in the world for their brown female counterparts is how they're being treated on an environmental level. And someone say, "Oh, that's not true." Well, let's okay, so it's not true. So let's do this. Let's start being nicer to your brown female counterparts. Let's start checking your homeboys for doing harmful things, female counterparts, and let's see if the environment starts to change. Because remember, if you change the inner world in your own personal world and become more self-aware, then the environment will show up differently. So let's start doing that. Green looks good on you. Are you wearing green to support StarBucks? No, and it's Earth Day. It's Earth Day, so I'm wearing green in honor of Earth Day. It just so happens I'm wearing green, and I'm talking about a subject of StarBucks. Yeah, it's all relative though, right? You know, nothing is chance. Be nice to mothers. That's right. Let's be nice to mothers. Let's start to make everybody accountable. Okay? Let's start to uphold ourselves and be accountable in a way that we check people that are being in non-alignment with those principles and values that we uphold. Okay? So, you know why I sit in conversations with people and people won't tell me what they're doing wrong about their mates and things like that? You know why they won't do that? Because they know what I stand for. Okay? They know what I uphold. They know that I'm very family oriented. They know that I really love the whole demographic. I love seeing couples together in a healthy, listen, it took me a while to find a mate that was in somewhat alignment with me. It just took a while after my Nazi. Why? Is because I had to find aspects of what was going on with myself, why I would pick a relationship that was that toxic. It said something about how I felt about myself. So I had to heal myself. So I waited a long period of time. And the person who showed up in my life was a good father. He has grown children. So I'm not picking a youngster. Yeah. Are you a swirler? What kind of questions is this? Am I a swirler? No, a swirler isn't. Do I date men that are of another nationality? Is that what you're asking? I just stated. Are you not listening to my video? You might be removed. Listen, stay with me. I just said my mate looks like me. What does that say? I have copper skin. I have brown hair. I have brown eyes. I'm Caribbean, right? And I'm of a certain age. So I told you that my mate is reminiscent of who I am. Are you even in the conversation? Or are you just looking at the video? Some people just hear like buzzwords, like trigger words. They only react to the trigger words. They're not really listening to the video. They just hear. You ever see, what is it? What's that movie? I forgot the movie. 51st. No, it wasn't that one. It was a funny one. Ben Stiller. The guy was in the psychological chair, and the psychologist is charging him like, I don't know, $100 an hour. And the only time the psychologist would react is when he heard like a trigger word. You're right, Lynn. I'm not going to explain myself. I might just have to X-may them. I don't want to X-may somebody. Maybe they just didn't hear it. But I'm just saying, I'm okay with me now. You said my mate looks like me, but more rich. This is what I'm talking about. Listen, whatever works. But I'm just saying, you have to, we have to be self-aware. And again, I was looking at the earth-colored shirt she's wearing. I'm sure you were. You know what? I'm gonna have to silence you a little bit. I'm sorry. Why are you here? I may not be your cup of tea. I'm gonna have to remove you. I'm sorry. Goodbye. Sorry. Bye bye. I need to have. Can I? Wait. Hold on. Can I make you a moderator? Okay. I'm at a moderator. Sensei, you're gonna be a moderator. Hannah, make Hannah a moderator. Jennifer, you want to be a moderator? I'm gonna make you all moderators. I'm gonna make my G's. I'm gonna make my super G's moderators. Just go for them, because I can't. Sometimes they come to the videos because they don't even know what we're discussing. They just may see the picture and they just want to see what's going on. You didn't do anything. How did you get back here? Alpha Kappa. Hold on. Okay, I put you in a timeout. There you go. Sorry, Alpha Kappa. You're not behaving yourself. You're asking very interesting questions that are they're very matrix-like. I'm not saying you shouldn't, and I'm not judging you for that, but it's a little, it's diverging from the conversation, really. Okay? Indigo Pink said you're a troll. I didn't say it. I didn't say it at all. Think of Indigo Pink. Anyway, you see, now we're off conversation. But what I'm saying, and the other one left too that asked me if I'm not boycotting. I wish they could just love like you do. Twisted Mickey. Where do we get these people from? Put user in timeout. Okay. Interesting. We've got different kind of trolling system on this page. Huh. It's a little different than I'm accustomed to. Anyway, what was I saying? I lost train of thought. Oh, the alpha guy? Yeah, I don't know where he came from. Yeah, we got them out of here. Lynn, you wanna be a moderator too? Here you go. Bam. There you go, Lynn. Just moderate. Just X-may them off. The conversations are. Yeah, I don't know it's Sunday. Aren't these people in church? Aren't they going to be in church? This is an interesting thing. A lot of these trolls aren't they going to pray today? Maybe they should pray. See, I'm okay with praying because I think some people need it. They require it. So anyway, this is my thing. Do better. We see better. And this conversation needs to be had in every household and amongst many different circles. Why? Is because we need to be more accountable for our own behaviors, and then when we see that we do something about our own personal behavior, then the world will show up in a different way and they will react differently to you. Okay? It's kind of like when I went to the hood in, where did I go to the hood? Oh, I went to the hood in Mount Vernon, which was sad because remember, I'm from Mount Vernon. Big up to Mount Vernon, New York. That's where I grew up, my old neck of the woods. That's where the weirdness came out. I'm a geek. But anyway, I went to, hold on. I may have to close my window. People are acting out of sorts lately. Anyway, what was I saying? So there was, oh, no. I took my little ones. I went to go, many of you knew I danced for Carnival. So the Carnival people had my costume. So I had to go pick a Carnival, Caribbean Carnival. I went to go pick up my costume somewhere, and it was close to the hood in Florida. So I went there, and I took my little ones. And they are not accustomed to seeing garbage on the floor, like tons of garbage all over the ground, like people like pave everything. So I took them, and this is where you pick up the costumes. Like you go to a place, like it's a little further. It's not hood, but it's kind of hood. So I went into this place, and my little ones saw all this garbage, and they were in shock, and they were disgusted. They were like, "Mommy, there's garbage everywhere. We've got to tell people." And I said, it was so sweet. I said, "What we're going to tell them?" She said, "We got to tell them. This is not good. Everybody's going to get sick. There's garbage. Why? The garbage people didn't come. They made a mess." They thought that the garbage on the street was a mistake of the garbage people dropping all the garbage. That's what they thought. They didn't know that people actually threw garbage in their own street and just left it there. That's what they saw, and they didn't understand it. So I had to explain to them that sometimes when people are not in alignment with themselves in a healthy way, that they don't clean up their environment. And they said, why would they not? They're going to get sick. Listen to how little people are so beautiful and how they see things in a healthy way. They're going to get sick if they don't clean their stuff off the floor. And I said, well, baby, it's a lot of people doing it. And they just couldn't understand it. And it was really, I took a moment because I don't know that I was ready to tell them that there is this sect of the world where there are people who are lacking in self-awareness and love, that it will show up in their environment. And when I speak about going to a place where people are more challenged as far as their consciousness and self-awareness, and also a lack of self-love, and also living in a very abusive environment, it will show up where there's urine in the hallways, you know, like in the projects in New York City, there's garbage on the street and glass. There's that because that is the consciousness of the people, the majority of people, not all, the majority of people living there, a lack of care. Because when I've gone to poor areas, listen to what I said, and I don't want to use poor, quote unquote poor, in places like Mexico or where else? Where was that? I was somewhere else. I was in another country. Where was this? I think it was another Latin American country. Was it Panama? I don't know which one it was. I think it was, Mexico was definitely one. When I went to a very quote-unquote limited financial place in Mexico, the place was, I mean, all they had was dirt. They didn't really have plants and stuff too much, but their houses were well kept. There wasn't any garbage on the floor. They took such great care of their environment. Like they would put their own personal plants and stuff outside. They had much more self-care and awareness of their environment than I found here in quote-unquote the hoods. I thought that was interesting. And they were limited, probably poorer than we would consider quote-unquote. When I say poor, I don't want to say poor because poor is also a mental state too. So I just say limited financially. They were probably even more limited financially because they don't have welfare. They don't have any assistance there. So when people are lacking resources, they are lacking resources. There's nobody coming to help them, not even their government. But what I saw was more self-love. I saw more self-care. Like they planted their own little trees and herbs outside. They didn't have dirt and garbage outside their houses, but they didn't have resources. But you come here, and we're considered the United Snakes of America. People have more resources, but they're considered to still be limited in resources, and they treat their environment like garbage. They can walk over garbage and not even act like they don't see it. That's a sign of self-esteem, lack of self-esteem. If you're living in an environment where you're walking past urine in your hallways every day and collectively you're okay with garbage outside, that's a collective karmic consciousness that's showing up in your environment because that's how you feel about yourself. And someone will say, oh, you're being disrespectful to those who are limited. No, it's not that, because when people start feeling better about themselves, what's the first thing they do? They leave the hood. So it's all relative, right? When people start feeling better about themselves, when they feel like they're more deserving of something better, they leave that type of environment, and they may go a little step up or they may go higher step up, but they leave that general environment. You don't have to be rich to have, poverty is a sin. It is. You don't have to be rich to be rich. Oh my gosh. Like I said, the Mexicans, when I went there, they were so astute. I mean, they made their own tequila. They were just so giving too. And we had more. Listen, in their eyes, we were wealthy. And they gave to us. They wanted us to sit and eat with them, and they didn't ask, and I would offer something. They didn't want anything from me. That's what I'm talking about. It's a mental thing. It was beautiful. And I'm just saying, why don't we have garbage days? Remember we tried to do it, like we did our 13th. We tried to make it so that our Sun Stars started to create a day of picking up garbage and make it like a day where the boys would go outside reading books and, make it a day to clean up garbage in the neighborhoods. That didn't stick. The Sun Stars didn't even think that was appropriate. A few did it, but the males didn't want to do that. Remember we tried to create a day where the males would go outside and clean up and do like a barbecue outside and make it like a whole activity once a month? What happened to that? Why are we wanting to clean up our environment? Very relative, I agree. And in the hoods, also one thing I see in the hoods is another sickness, is that you see these beautiful churches. Listen, we see these beautiful churches, and we see beautiful churches in the middle of the hood where they collect money, right? They collect tithes, right? They collect tithes, which is donations from people. And why is it that you have a beautiful church and the preacher, what is his name? The preacher or the, whatever he is, the preacher and the people that are part of the church, how come they're driving Mercedes and stuff, but they're driving in the middle of the hood around people that are very limited? Why isn't the money, because I thought tithing was to create a better environment for the community around the church. I thought the community around the church was supposed to get I didn't know. I thought personally, because I grew up, remember, I was reared in a Catholic, quote unquote Catholic house, because I'm Caribbean. Religion was not something that was part of my proponent. I just see it as something outside of myself. But I thought tithing was you give money to the church and the church takes care of the community, meaning it gives community programs for the children, it cleans up the environment, and they were really in charge of making sure that the environment matched the spiritual consciousness of what the church was propagating, right? Isn't that what it was supposed to be? But why do I go to the hood and I see a church that looks beautiful and I see these beautiful people dressed in the church driving really fancy cars in the hood, but the people who are giving their money are very limited in finances, but the people speaking are very wealthy? I mean, that's imbalanced to me. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but that's imbalanced like crazy. Yeah, I like taking flights, jets and stuff like that when they're in the middle of. It's almost like the church is feeding off the environment. It's almost like it's a parasite. Like it's feeding off of the spirituality of the people, so it drains the environment. Because every time I see it in the hood, this beautiful church, the people look like they're sick all around it. Oh, Alpha Kappa. I don't mean to insult you. You're not a troll? Okay. Alpha Kappa, listen, if you're going to engage in a conversation, we get it. But sometimes the questions you were asking made us question your motivation. Okay. Thank you, Alpha. I accept your apology. Okay. I accept. You're fine to stay. You know, sometimes, listen, I get in conversations, if you don't know me yet, many of Sun Stars and Sea Stars know me already. Just when we get in conversations about certain topics and so on, you know, just we understand consciousness and we understand someone's general consensus of their frequency. So when you ask questions, you know, like about shirts and things like that, it just makes us think that you're in, you know, you're in the mode of the lower self. Like Nature Not would say, the lower self. So that's it. I appreciate your apology. We'll keep it moving. Okay. And they don't like your cap locks either. My people don't like your cap locks. They think you're shouting. So can we lower down a key? That's all. If we're going to engage with each other, let's just do it respectfully. That's all. No harm, no foul. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, watch it. I give people chances, and it helps me sometimes, and sometimes it hinders me. You know, but I'm grateful that if I made a mistake, I always think from the position, like if I made a mistake, I would hope that you would forgive me for it. And if I made a mistake and I apologized for it and I saw the error of my ways, that I could come back from it. So I always give that to others because that's something I would want someone to have with me as well. The churches are, I think it's like they're parasites, especially when I see them in areas. Now, I think it's different in certain areas where the area is all beautiful. I think that's more in alignment. But when I see beautiful churches in the middle of a hood and everybody looks sick around it and everybody's giving their money to these conglomerates that are living these super enhanced lives, though the people are still impoverished, I think there's some imbalance to that. So I think there's some sickness involved with that. But you also know that I think if you're a brown person engaged in Christianity, I think you're also suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. That's just my opinion. So, you know, why people said, oh, why do you think we're suffering from Stockholm? Someone asked me that, and I'll tell you simply what it is that if you're a brown person, we understand that, I give you the example, is that even in the German concentration camps during the time of the Holocaust, the quote-unquote Holocaust, when people were being subjugated to gassings and murders, mass murders on a great scale, and it was done by a particular nationality of people, Germanics, that were down with the Nazi Party, who did wear the Nazi symbol, which was the swastika, which is not really from that. They used a sacred geometric shape that had metaphysical components, but we know where the swastika originally came from. It actually the indigenous people used it, and it was actually a symbol that was utilized for negative reasons to be able to subjugate a people. Okay, so we know this. So when I see Jewish people anywhere, like if I see Jewish people in New York, or I see them in LA, or I see them here, do you ever see them wear a swastika? Even if they're not part of the, let's say they weren't even part of the Holocaust, do you see any Jewish person, whether they're a practicing Jew or not, wear a Holocaust? Okay. Most of you will say no. I've never seen a Jewish person of Jewish nationality, whether they're practicing Jew or anything, wearing a Holocaust, a swastika. Okay. Now we take a group of people that were subjugated to genocidal behavior by a group of Christians, quote unquote Christians, that came across the sea, who subjugated many indigenous people under the guise of the cross. Okay? They were garnishing the cross when they came across the seas. And every country, whether it's Central America, South America, Africa, wherever have you, those people who came across the waters had a cross on their ships. Before they came and murdered, subjugated, raped, parasited, took the resource, what have you, right? So that was a symbol that was used to subjugate a group of people. Why is it okay to, and it was a forced religion that was used on the people, to force on the people to perpetuate a belief system because they felt that people were heathens for being naked and free and living in cohesion with Mother Earth. Go figure. Right? So if that's the case, why do you see brown people, indigenous people, Latino people, anybody who comes as indigenous sex wearing crosses? That's madness. That's a form of Stockholm syndrome. Identifying with the person who has been manipulating you and abused you, really identifying with the abuser. So, and even, listen, and that's one thing I say, I just personally know, I won't say I think, I know that that's unhealthy. And for those people of color to be practitioners in a religious system, a corporate religious system, that has created havoc and suppression and genocidal behavior towards them, I personally know that's unhealthy for you. And when you wear the cross, you also, as a person of color, now I can't talk for others, I'm talking about the people who are subjugated under this system of corporate religion. And that cross being the first thing that they saw when they were being subjugated to genocide and rape, pillaging, and what have you. When you wear the cross on your brown, copper skin, whatever skin, you are putting a stamp, almost like and I hate to say it to you, but it is what it is. It's like you're putting a satanic symbol on yourself, because you will experience the pain and degradation. It's meant to perpetuate that in you, because now the symbol means that to genetic displacement, because for that your genetic codes, your memories all remember that symbol. So even though you're here in the United States of America, you've never been, under the system of slavery or tyranny or what have you, your coding of the people that you come from still have the memories inside of you. So for that reason, you still are part of the MK Ultra system that is still affected by that cross. So when you wear it, you have suffering, you have disheartening situations, you have pain, you have struggle. That's what the cross means to indigenous people under the guise of your genetic markers. I just got hives all over me for that. Oh, vaccinations? Vaccinations is another. We got a host of. If they don't get you with religion, we'll get you with, no. If they don't get you with vaccinations, they will get you with religion. Hold on. I'm being loud. Okay. If they don't get you with vaccinations from birth, they will get you with religion. Because remember, even with the vaccines, listen, the only way that you can get immunity and a pass from getting vaccines is if you have paperwork that says that you're under a religious sect, and that's why you're not vaccinating yourself. Listen to me, family. I can't lie to you. Go and try to get the paperwork for your children to be to have the exemption, which I did. Okay, so you have the exemption. The only way you get exemption from vaccinations is if you have a religious sect that says you're against it for religious reasons. So they're okay with you not doing vaccinations if you're religious. What does that tell you? So it tells you that the religion and vaccinations are doing one and the same. Now the Ankh is inclusive of the womb, of the mother. That's why people rock the Ankh. The cross is an incomplete Ankh. That's what it is. It's a negation of the mother. When you say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, there's a negation of the female element. Okay? That's why most priests are male. That's why the altar boys. That's why you never see the female. It's a purposeful exemption of the female base. That's why they took the circle womb off of the cross, which is an ankh. It's an incomplete ankh. That's what a cross is. The Celtic cross is a little different. That's another sigil, okay? So that means that has another dual meaning as well. I mean, we could go on all day. We can have this conversation all day. I like that it's personable on this page. Homeschooling is beautiful. I mean, I just think, listen, if you know better, you do better. Because we were talking about schooling as well. I know I'm going off on all kinds of sidebar, and I guess when people watch my videos, they should just know that this is what it is. We have these type of conversations which lead on to other conversations. But even with, we're talking about schooling, and I said, well, it's interesting because the majority of really wealthy people don't talk about homeschooling. Why? Because they're just as concerned about indoctrination, but they don't have the same indoctrination, because when they send their children to schools in wealthier areas, the school system addresses those children and teaches them things very different than how public schools are in more questionable socio-economical environments. Meaning that when you go to schools, I'm talking about public schools in wealthier areas where the taxes are super, super high and the homes are super, super big, and people are very wealthy. Those schools have the least amount of people who would ever homeschool. It's not necessary, because the majority of your core of the children, what they're learning from base, I'm talking about from preschool to about 1st grade, they learn self-esteem. They actually have a part of the core of the curriculum that puts in self-esteem. So majority of activities, curriculum is based on who they are, feeling confident about self. What does that tell you? Because they're not raising workers, they're rearing leaders. Their children are being reared to be leaders. And when you enter a lower, more questionable, more limited socio-economical educational system, and those children are being reared and educated to be limited and to be servants, to be drones, to being promoted to be, worker bees, not leaders. That's why some people will opt into spending so much money, like college tuition, to send their children to private schools. But you really don't have to send it to private schools. All you have to do is move to a wealthy area. But that's the same as sending it's all relative, because it's all based on the fiat system and what social economical group you're being exposed to and what you're rearing your children under. I'm grateful to have this information and this intel, but that's what I'm saying. To me, it's all relative. I don't want to be blocked. I'm just listening. It's interesting. Okay, Alpha. I appreciate that. So we had mothers talking about homeschooling, and then we had the mothers who were talking about who were actually living in a place where I want to keep anonymity here. So let's just say this: they just living around wealthier people who come from, let's say, the sports arena. Okay, so remember, I walk in many worlds based on who I am and what I've been associated with. And when you hear the conversations, it's very, very different, because I know from the world of the wealthy, the schools are astute. The children are healthier, and the children don't feel subjugated to listen to anyone. They're actually more children have a healthy sense of self-esteem. I don't want to say they're egregious. They just have healthy self-esteem, and they're not ones. They question everything. They're allowed to question their professors. They're allowed to question their facilitators. You'll go in classrooms with 1st graders and 2nd graders, and they are allotted to question the motivation of their instructors without censure and without repercussions. What do you think they're teaching them? They're teaching them to be leaders. You go to a school in a very limited social-economical place, and any child who speaks up to the teacher is getting kicked out of the class. They're going to get in trouble. They're going there might be some consequence, or the teacher may take a personal vendetta and say, I don't like the student, and always score them a point lower than even their score that they have on their test, because they feel a certain way. The facilitators in higher end schools know that these parents have more control and power over them. And when these children are questioning those facilitators, those facilitators shut their mouths, and they don't really get after them because they know that the parents are wealthier and more powerful than them, and they want to keep their jobs. Is it fair? Oh, well, that's the world of the Matrix. And what I state all the time, people who, before you have children, this is something that I did prior to having children, you have to make sure that you pick out the district that you want to reside in. So I always encourage mothers and fathers prior to having children, that you decide where you want to live prior to having children. You check out the school districts. So if you are going somewhere and you want to send your child to a really special or good school, and I don't agree with sending your school to having a child living in a limited economical area and sending them to a really expensive school, because even though they're going to school with wealthy children and and a healthier facilitating school, that child will also be made to be subjugated to feeling more limited, because those are not their actual peers. They're going to school as like help. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, like a token. And I don't agree with that. Some mothers will disagree with that. I personally don't. I don't think if you're living in a certain socio-economical group and you're sending your child to a really, really different school in a wealthier area, you might have a child that's subjugated to feeling lower about themselves based on the fact that they're not really from that world. It will give them more perks and yes, absolutely, but I just think you should be careful about that. I would prefer that before you have children, you live in the area that you are okay with the district. That's what I did every single time. I had a mother who's a teacher for many years. I taught, so I knew how important I wanted the district. I didn't necessarily want to go. If I'm buying a beautiful home, I wanted to make sure the home was somewhere that was astute, that had the highest level of education. And it wasn't necessary to homeschool, because the type of schooling and education that we're going to get was superseding anything that was in a limited format. And even as a person of color, if you're living in an area where that happens, those facilitators will treat your children like gold. It doesn't matter what color they are. Listen to me, family. Colorism and Compextionism happens in more limited socio-economical demographics. When you go to wealthier, I'm saying more astute facilities, colorism and speciesism and Compextionism, that is something you rarely see, because facilitators are for the parents. They are there to facilitate for those children and to cater to them, even if their behavior could be a little off. We did, but when it came time to register, they only took a limited number of kids from the neighborhood. I was not happy about that. I'm sorry. Why is this phone? Yes, that's a problem. But this is what I'm saying. You will get that if you go to private schools where you don't live. But what I always suggest to people, I think I was talking about this before, is I always suggest prior to having the children, or if you have them, you should move to the area where you want your children to go to school. And some people said, well, we can't afford it. That's not true. There are always places to live in even some of the wealthiest neighborhoods. You'd be surprised. I think, sometimes it's better to inquire than to assume that that's not the case. I think you should live in these areas where these schools are, and basically find the zoning and find the places right around the zone where it's applicable for your child to be part of that institution. And I find that when you are part of the environment of where you are sending your child to school in, the behavior of the facilitators will definitely be in alignment with you as a parent of power, as opposed to somebody who's just a token in the system. Do you see what I mean? Homeschooling is great if you are a type of person who can homeschool. Not everybody is a good homeschooler. Not everybody can be a teacher. That's another thing we have to discuss. Homeschooling is wonderful, and yes, they have great resources online now for homeschooling parents and places that you can come collectively. But remember, homeschool requires time and effort, and not everybody is a teacher. So for that reason, we have people who want to be who want children homeschooled, but they're not good facilitators themselves. They're just not teachers. Not everybody's a teacher. But, I love the fact that, yes, but I do love the fact that my girlfriend said this. This is what, I love my girlfriends because we can kind of go back and forth. And they said, listen, if you as a parent, you are the first teacher. I love when she said that. She's like, you're the first teacher. So yeah, her antage, her thought form was like, listen, as a parent, you teach your children. You're the first facilitator. So yes, every mother and father is a teacher by the nature of them being a parent. That was her position, and I kind of agree with that as well. So she kind of thought that position was, listen, if you're a mother and father, you are going to be a role model regardless if you want to or not. So you are a teacher in that way. So, but I just felt like academia is something that not everybody does well in. And it's okay when you're first teaching your children the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but once you get past a certain point, especially 3rd and 4th grade math, which becomes a little more progressive, and then you started getting into trigonometry, because I remember I tutored for 11th grade prep for mathematics. When you start getting into the older levels of education, then you got to get into geometry, you got to get into basic algebra. Not everybody's astute in that. Can you teach that? And even were you good in that? Some people are great in math, but they're really, really not great in English. It does. It takes a lot. So I say, rather than that, why not? Math is highly crucial, especially we're going to science age. And first of all, they're taking a lot of science out of schools too, which I have a problem with. If you notice that if your child is in school, science is limited. So you actually almost have to send your child, if you want to emphasize in sciences more, to an institution that focuses in sciences and mathematics. They're taking science out of the schools purposefully to limit their cognitive skills. So that's what I'm saying. So I always suggest, as mommies and daddies, look for a placement where you can send your children and move to an area where you may live around mansions, but living in an apartment that's really nice in a nice area, I think it's worth it for sending your child to a really good school, because that changes really quickly. It puts you in a different demographics. It also allows you to network amongst people that have capability of extending a little more of an olive leaf to you in a world that would allow you to lift up your socio-economical pathways, and someone would say that's parasitic, but everything is parasitic in itself. I'm just saying, it's all relative. So look for the district that you want your children to go to. Overheard about the Dream School in Harlem. Harlem is the bomb. Listen, I've known people who went to Harlem schools in what you consider to be limited area. You ever talk to people who are from uptown in Harlem? They're really, really smart. And they're great in math. Children from the Bronx. I remember teaching at a facility upstate with young boys who were locked up judicial system. So I was teaching, how old was I? I think my late 20s. And I found that the boys, I understood why they were good, but I found that the boys that were from the Bronx and Harlem were so smart, even though they were locked up. You know why? Unfortunately, it's because they were pushing drugs, drug dealers. And they knew weight and size of things. They were able to do math in their head like nobody else. And I know that, and what's crazy about that is because people will say that certain children are limited cognitively. That's not true. Limitation in cognitive skills comes from lacking of motivation to have to do it. But these children who are pushing drugs or doing things like that, or doing things and hustling in the street, what happens is that there's a motivation for them to do it. So you actually see that they're quite capable of doing high-end mathematics. I mean, they were doing things in their head I couldn't even do. I had to calculate out on paper. Harlem. Big up to Harlem and the Bronx. Yeah. So, anyway, I could talk to you all day. I don't want to. We could go on homeschooling, so when we're just having a personal conversation. I like the fact that we have the platform over here on the Secret Squirrel private little live, because on my main live, it's a bigger demographic of people that come in, So Alpha, thank you, Alpha Kappa. This is what I'm saying. I don't expect you to agree with everything I say either. I don't want a yes crew. If you notice our people, everybody has their own opinion. So I respect that, and I'm a New York woman. So I've grown up with having that conversation and different people's opinions and respecting it. So please don't feel like you're going to be limited. You know, it's just saying we want respect when we're on this platform. That's all we require. But other than that, we have all conversations. And again, you don't have to agree with everything or anything I say, but we can also come at each other in a way that's, you know, appropriate. That's all. I found an online math program for my girls. They are getting straight A's. Ooh, I love that. Amber said she's got, wait, Amber. Okay, wait, Amber said math used to bring tears. I'm not crying anymore. You know what, Amber? Share that with the family. Share it. This is what I'm talking about. That's beautiful. See, she found a program. It's share that with the family. You know what? A lot of times what it is like word of mouth. Oh, they're having a party. I'm sorry. I get distracted. They're about to pop. Anytime somebody has a party, I always think about trying to go to that party. ALEKS math. Everybody get that? Someone put that. Let me write that down. Thank you for that. Where's my pen? Let me write that down. Everyone write that down. See this? Word of mouth. We can learn from one another, especially as mothers. A lot of times, this is what we need to do. And I think a lot of times we need to be more associated with other parents and get, thank you, Amber. Thank you, Amber. ALEKS. Math. Okay. And I'll share that with Cypher as well. Thank you. Look at that. Beautiful. Look at that share. You know, there are mothers now struggling with math. It's not something they did really well. They need to have these resources. Thank you. Beautiful. So I'll send it to Cypher and to the other crew. Because that's another thing. Maybe mothers feel very self-conscious about not having, you know, their math up to up to here. And some of the way that they teach math, even with my little ones, like when I was teaching the 11th graders, and this was a while ago, my little ones who were in the elementary school school levels, they're teaching math much differently. They're teaching them how to resolve math equations in different ways that I was not taught. And I don't want to be anti to it. So what I make sure is I see how they're actually doing their math. I try to acclimate to it, but also I also teach my little ones the way that I addressed the mathematic equations. So I give them a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? I'm okay with it. I don't want to change what they're learning and how they're learning it in the system, but also I add something that I know that helps them. So, you know, I give a little bit of mine too. I don't think we should just go one route. We can go a couple of different routes. So thank you, Amber. Amber, that was bomb.com. See? So anyway, family, I'm out. It's warm out here. It's beautiful. I want to go and engage more in the sun. And like I said, you know, if you're going to protest and you want to engage in boycotting, listen to what it says, boycott. Listen to the words that they're utilizing to address this. Boycott. You know what a cot is to lie down, right? Boy, it's a male. Okay? Pro. If you're against something, why would you be pro it? Protest. You want to take a test? Watch the words that you use when you say this. But I'm just saying, if you're going to engage in addressing what happens at StarBucks, by all means, I think you do so. I think, you know, pressure. Listen, they fired the employee that did that because she was based in, a form of Compextionism. She was biased, so they addressed her, and they also have been standing outside of the facilities making aware. And now Starbucks is closing down a whole bunch of stores to address ethics and morality regarding people of different nationalities. I think that's beautiful. You see how sometimes in the darkest moments, or what we think is something negative, brings so much beauty and emphasis on something that will heal an aspect that was not addressed. So I think that's beautiful in itself. I think everyone should, in every facilitating position, every corporate placement, should have the same ethical training so that you know how to engage with people of different cultures, different languages, and different racial components, complexions. I think that's beautiful. So I think to address that, I think is fantastic. So if anything came from these boys going, and also, I'm be honest, these young men are about to be very wealthy because they have a very big lawsuit now. Based on, they have a lawyer who's representing them, probably doing pro bono. Listen to this. These are young men that were actually thinking about doing real estate. Look at how manifestation comes out. They were going to do some real estate deal, right? So they go in there, they get kicked out. They weren't hostile. They took it. Listen, the cops took them. They didn't agree with it, but they didn't fight them. They went in. Look at this. They got an attorney. They're about to get their real estate dreams popping because they're going to have the money to do it. So sometimes we see things in maybe a lower field of what it is. These young men will actually have the money to do actually what they were intending to do at Starbucks, and it's at Starbucks expense. Just like the young lady who decided to attach herself to my YouTube illegally, and now she too will be dealing with legal ramifications for doing so. Sometimes things happen for reasons. So it's okay sometimes that we see it show up, but also why it shows up, we have to address it too. So I say to the mothers, we start with the little boys from young, teaching them and showing our best face first. You know what I mean? Being the healthy change we want to see in the world, so that our little boys show up better, so that they're not dealing with the residual karmically that shows up and how they're being treated environmentally. Okay? So I'm so grateful you joined me today. It was a very nice conversation, and hopefully we'll be able to see how this comes to fruition. But like I said, we're based in unity. I'm based in unity consciousness, and I hope you are too. And like I said, someone asked me, what was the question? I get some odd questions sometimes because people are so anti-everything, so they think that it means something different. Oh, do I believe in mixing with people? I think that everyone is everything. I think you be with who you want to be with. Whoever makes you happy, whoever brings you joy, whoever makes you feel good, whoever is great and healthy for your children, you engage with them. And I think instead of asking the question of who we shouldn't be with, why don't we say we should just be with people that are in alignment with your frequency and your consciousness and your vibration. That's all. When the person who hacked you, we are going to key this week. With the person who hacked you, we are going to key this week. Yeah. Well, it actually whatever happened was for the benefit of myself, which is showing up now. Yeah. So it also is harmful to them because they put themselves in a legal situation that they're going to have an issue with. So everything is in alignment. And and also I will also be the front person to teach people how to address people who are harassing you and also stalking you, and you will be able to see the line and how things commence when that happens and see how justice comes about. So it's beautiful, and I'm grateful for that. So for that reason, family, I'm out. I'm going to go. My little ones are making slime, and they're upset with me because I didn't bring them borax, so that's who's calling. I got to go get them borax so they can put it in their slime. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do laundry and have my little ones make slime today. This is like a big science. I'm big into science projects and so on. I think it'll be fun. That's like the big thing for little ones, to make slime and volcano eruptions and stuff like that. I love it. And we're the best facilitators for our children. So if you're concerned about your schools, then when you send your children to school and they're being educated in a way that maybe you feel like you can't do anything about, then why don't you make sure that you educate them the way that you know to be when they're home? That's all. You counter it with, you always counter something by how you kind of level it off. They get that, you give them what you know. And you give them a little extra of what you desire for them to learn. That's all. Anyway, family, I'm out. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy, and, big up to those men who are actually getting justice for the injustice that occurred with them. I'm so grateful that they will actually have the actual what they needed to be able to do what they desire to do. So they're getting a manifestation through hardship. Though it seemed a little uncomfortable, it had its own way to remedy itself. So big up to them. And I ask for every male, if you're really down with, you feel like this is happening, I would love for you to stand up for those of us who are females who are being disheartened or disrespected or degraded publicly. And I would hope that you would stand up for us and protest those males who are doing harm to the female counterparts that look like you as well. That would be really, really balanced. So I would hope that you would be able to do that and start to honor us so that the environment starts to honor you. It's all one and the same. Anyway, peace, family. I'm out. Have a beautiful day.